As the private conversation between King Charles and Prince William continued behind closed palace doors, the atmosphere reportedly grew heavier with every passing moment. This was no longer a discussion about titles, ceremonies, or public appearances. According to royal watchers and ongoing fan speculation, this had become a deeply personal conversation about family, legacy, loyalty, and the future survival of the monarchy itself. For the first time in what many imagine had been years, father and son appeared to be speaking without the protection of royal protocol standing between them. There were no advisors in the room, no officials taking notes, no carefully prepared statements designed for public consumption, just a king nearing one of the most controversial moments of his reign and the son who would one day inherit every consequence of that decision. William listened carefully as Charles explained the reasoning behind the dramatic restructuring that had stunned the royal council. According to this fictional narrative, Charles admitted that the monarchy had reached a point where difficult choices could no longer be postponed. For too long, personal relationships and royal responsibilities had existed in a complicated grey area. The king reportedly believed that uncertainty had become one of the institution's greatest weaknesses. In his view, the monarchy needed clarity. It needed stability. And most importantly, it needed leaders who would place duty above personal ambition. That was where Anne's name entered the discussion once again. Charles allegedly explained that his sister had earned something far more valuable than popularity. She had earned trust. For decades, Anne had quietly carried out royal engagements, represented the crown without complaint, and remained loyal during some of the family's most turbulent periods, while others often dominated headlines and focused on service. Many royal commentators have long described the Princess Royal as one of the hardest-working members of the family, and in this fictional scenario, Charles reportedly viewed that consistency as the foundation upon which the monarchy could rebuild its credibility. William understood the argument. Yet according to fan theories surrounding this story, he remained troubled by another issue. Harry. No matter how much the institution changed, Harry remained his brother. That reality could not simply be erased with a signature or a royal directive. As the conversation continued, William reportedly questioned whether removing Harry and Meghan from the monarchy's future structure would create wounds that might never heal. The room fell quiet. Charles knew exactly what his son was asking. The issue was not governance. The issue was family. And family had always been the monarchy's most complicated battlefield. According to speculation, Charles responded with a level of honesty rarely seen from a monarch. He reportedly admitted that he still loved Harry. That had never changed. What had changed was his understanding of what the crown required. The king allegedly explained that love and responsibility were not always the same thing. A father could love his son while still making decisions that the son might never forgive. A monarch could care deeply for family members while recognizing that not everyone could occupy a central role within the institution. The distinction was painful, but in Charles's mind it had become necessary. William listened in silence. The future king understood the logic. Yet understanding did not make acceptance easier. Somewhere beyond palace walls, Harry remained unaware of the full extent of what was unfolding. And according to many fan theories, the eventual reaction could shake the family even further. Meanwhile, another storm was quietly forming elsewhere inside the palace. Camilla. While Charles and William were discussing the future, speculation suggests that Camilla was processing a reality she had never imagined facing. For years, she had stood beside the king through criticism, controversy, and public scrutiny. She had weathered storms that many believed would overwhelm any royal figure. Now, according to this fictional storyline, she found herself confronting something even more painful. Irrelevance. Not complete disappearance. Not public disgrace. But something arguably worse. The gradual realization that influence was slipping away. Observers within the story imagined Camilla sitting alone, reviewing updated schedules and revised responsibilities. Every document seemed to tell the same story. Power was moving. Authority was shifting. The center of gravity within the monarchy was changing. And for the first time in years, she was no longer standing at its center. Yet those who know royal history understand that major transitions rarely occur without resistance. Many fans speculate that Camilla would not simply accept the situation quietly. Not because she desired conflict, but because the emotional impact of the decision was simply too significant. Questions remained unanswered. Promises appeared broken. Trust had been damaged. And damaged trust often creates consequences long before public statements are ever released. Elsewhere, Anne was reportedly dealing with an entirely different burden. Unlike others involved in the unfolding drama, she was not celebrating. In fact, according to fan speculation, the honor felt more like a responsibility than a reward. Anne understood how the announcement would be perceived. She knew critics would accuse her of benefiting from another person's loss. She knew supporters and opponents alike would scrutinize every future appearance. She knew that every gesture, every speech, and every decision would be analyzed through the lens of the king's controversial announcement. The weight of those expectations was enormous. But Anne also understood something few others did. The monarchy was entering dangerous territory. Public trust had become fragile. Family divisions had become increasingly visible. And every new controversy risked damaging the institution even further. If Charles truly believed she could help stabilize the crown, refusing the responsibility might create even greater uncertainty. That realization left Anne carrying a burden that few people around her could fully understand. Then there was Catherine. According to fan commentary, Catherine may have been one of the first people to recognize that the situation was far from over. While others focused on titles and positions, she focused on consequences. And the consequences were only beginning. The Princess of Wales reportedly understood that increased authority would bring increased scrutiny. Every public appearance would matter more. Every decision would attract greater attention. Every mistake would become larger. The monarchy's future was increasingly being placed in the hands of William and Catherine. That responsibility came with extraordinary opportunity. But it also came with extraordinary risk. One misstep could undermine everything Charles was trying to build. One controversy could reignite every argument the family hoped to leave behind. And perhaps most concerning of all, there were still secrets hidden within the palace walls. Because according to speculation, the mysterious second page that Catherine noticed earlier continued to raise questions. What else had Charles included? What additional measures had been approved? What consequences remained hidden from public view? Those questions refused to disappear. In fact, they only became more important as events continued unfolding. Later that evening, according to this fictional narrative, reports of unusual activity began circulating among palace staff. Meetings were scheduled unexpectedly. Documents changed hands. Senior aides appeared increasingly tense. No official explanation was offered. But the timing immediately attracted attention. Something was happening. Something significant. And those closest to the situation appeared to know it. Back inside the palace, William's conversation with Charles was nearing its end. Before leaving the room, the prince reportedly asked one final question. It was a simple question, but it carried enormous significance. Had Charles truly considered what would happen when Harry eventually learned the full truth? The king did not answer immediately. Instead, he stared toward the window, lost in thought. According to fan theories, that silence revealed more than words ever could. Because for all his confidence in Anne, William, and Catherine,